You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. We've got a tough show to do today. We probably wouldn't even be doing the show, to be honest. We'll say that straight up if we weren't going away for 3 days after this. So we're between a rock and a hard place in terms of trying to talk about the cricket that's happening and the world events that are happening that are having an impact on the cricket, and I guess being clear about what the scenario is. Max pointed out that I've actually started this podcast on entirely the wrong microphone. So what I will do is plug that in. But I will introduce Max first. Max, how you doing?
Hello. Yeah, you could have thrown it over to me to talk while you ferreted around, but never mind. Yeah, good start. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm excited for our weekend away with Ross. I don't know if any of our listeners remember Ross, the other member of the podcast, but he is alive and he does exist. He's just stuck. I think he's been chained up in a room doing wedding admin for the last like 2 months. So we'll see him soon, I promise, and we'll try to look after him this weekend as we go and celebrate his upcoming nuptials.
But yeah, that's what we'll do. Right, before we get started,
that sounds better.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, people at home. I think that was through my microphone on the laptop, which isn't great. Before we get started, just a reminder: we're sponsored by BetterHelp, and you've probably been hearing those adverts. We have now added the link to BetterHelp to the show notes, so you can click that and go directly rather than typing in the link that we're suggesting. So that's item of business number 1. Item of business number 2 is make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on Patreon, patreon.com/thecricketpod. And item of business number 3 is to try and do some sort of show menu. What we'll do, I think, is talk about what we know about today, first of all, and then very briefly, I think, cover the IPL games. And there is also England's Test squad news, so maybe we'll finish off on that. Let's get to proceedings in Dharamsala first of all, though. So Punjab v Delhi was the cricket match that was supposed to be taking place today, but it did take place. We had 10.1 overs of it, I think. Started late because of rain. After the dismissal of
Sean Connery joins
Arya.
us.
Yep. I was watching Sean Connery and Indiana Jones the other day, actually, so maybe that has I don't know,
subliminally messaged its way into your podcasting.
Exactly. Anyway, look, after 10.1 overs, all the floodlights go out pretty much. The officials at the ground evacuate the stadium, lights stay off, the match is abandoned pretty quickly afterwards. And that's the end of the cricket. What else we know is that this match was held only 100 miles-ish away from the Pakistani border, where obviously there's a lot of tension and there's, let's call it what it is. There's an active military conflict happening at the moment. At more or less the same time as the stadium lights went out, there were strikes reported in the city of Jammu. I think that, if that didn't have an impact on the decision to call it off, and they were thinking about doing that already, that must have been the final straw. And they made the sensible decision, I would say, to halt the cricket. And that's the end of that game. Should also say that the Mumbai Indians match v Punjab this was actually announced before the beginning of the match that happened this evening. That has been moved to Ahmedabad. And this is where things get a little bit fuzzy. And obviously, we're talking about this in about an hour after the events actually took place. There is some sort of evacuation train being put on place for the players to get them out of Dharamsala and away to, I guess we'd call it safety. The city of Dharamsala is currently blacked out. And there is a meeting of the IPL Governing Council underway at the moment, which I suspect is probably to discuss what the future of this year's IPL will be. We don't know what the outcome of that will be. It's probably a little bit pointless to speculate. That's what we know. Max, anything from you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's sad, isn't it, when all this sort of stuff happens to put it very, very tritely. Hopefully, people see reason and de-escalate, and it all starts to calm down, and people see sense. But it is concerning. So obviously, safety's the priority. Like you said, it sounds like there's blackouts and things in the area, and explosions nearby. So right decision to call it off. Could question the decision to start in the first place, I suppose. But the fact that they've moved the Mumbai game as well means that hopefully they're thinking about ways around ensuring the tournament can continue safely rather than axing the whole thing. Obviously, the PSL's got its own things to think about. With there was a drone that fell in Rawalpindi, wasn't there? So that's moved some of the PSL games away from there as well. So both sides having issues with T20 cricket in regions where there are things happening. So yeah, let's just let's hope it all calms down and we can get on with talking about cricket rather than trying to do international politics.
Yeah, ideally. I think it's probably worth saying as well that we are not the experts on geopolitical matters in this region. I don't particularly have an opinion one way or the other, or know enough to have an opinion. So I'm not gonna get one involved there. I think you're right, Max. It would be good if you just got on with cricket if it's safe. It's possible, I think, at this point in time that both tournaments are abandoned. I think that's very much on the table. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. We'll see what happens there. I also kind of wouldn't be surprised if both tournaments pushed on with nobody wanting to admit effectively that they've been forced into a cancellation. But that kind of is speculation. I mean, not there.
You never want to try and conflate politics and sport too much, do you? People always say keep them separate, etc. But either tournament or both tournaments being cancelled would kind of be a tacit acceptance, wouldn't it, from one government or the other that there's something serious going on. It's and in it where both are sort of trying to say, yeah, well, look, we're defending ourselves, but there's nothing bigger than that. It's interesting to see how that will all play out. But like you say, we're not experts in geopolitics, so it's safer to steer clear. We'll save the discussions about that for the pub, rather than talking about an area that probably has a lot more expertise in our listeners than it does us.
Yeah, and frankly, Max, you don't want yourself clipped up, do you? And
I knew it was the right thing not to sell all of our content to AI.
Yeah, exactly. Look, we should say as well, like, if anything does happen, the next podcast won't be until Monday night, so we're not going to be around to cover anything as it happens.
Obviously, we hope everyone's okay.
Absolutely, and I think these are global tournaments as well. Like, there has to be a consideration for the players that have flown in to play in these two different countries, and I think realistically questions maybe should be asked about whether it's fair on them to ask them to carry on. That's what it is. Max, it's a little bit churlish to continue talking about cricket, to be honest, but we've got no other choice. We do have another choice. We will effectively. We'll go through.
Well, we could stop, couldn't we? But one of the most surprising things in cricket in recent years has happened, hasn't it? CSK have won a game. We've got to address that.
Why don't we talk about CSK winning a game of cricket?
Well, yes, let's do that. So KKR hanging on in there in the hunt for the top four. What better way to confirm yourself as back in the race as a game against Chennai at home, a lowly Chennai who have been dreadful all season. And, well, I mean, things started okay for KKR. Sunil Narine got his customary quickfire 20-odd. Ajinkya Rahane scored a nice 48, but it wasn't the quickest, it wasn't the fastest, it wasn't the most imposing innings that we've seen at Eden Gardens this year. We did see Manish Pandey, which may have contributed to the fact that it wasn't the most imposing innings we've seen at Eden Gardens this year. But Dre Russ let a few fireworks go at the end to get KKR to 179 for 6. But hey, well, it was far from a good start for Chennai as they lost Aish Matre after 2 balls, and Devon Conway back in the side for no clear reason after Sam Curran had come back and started doing okay. Now Devon Conway's time to have a go, and he also got a 2-ball duck to continue his torrid run of form. But then something weird happened, Jack. CSK had decided they were going to play a guy called Urvil Patel, who's 26 years old, and I haven't seen him before, and he hit 31 off 11, including 4 sixes, which is very un-CSK and very much what they've been missing for the entire year. So you do have to kind of wonder where they were keeping him and what was going on with that. Ashwin was back batting at 4 for, again, no reason whatsoever. Jadeja down to 5. None of it made any sense, and the batting lineup basically went about things as if it made no sense. 60 for 5 after 5.2 overs, and looked pretty bad, didn't it? But then Devalt Brevis came in, smashed a quick 550. Shivam Dubé potted around alongside him to get CSK close, and MS Dhoni with a less than runner ball 17 steered the side home. So there are 2 stories. CSK have won, and MS Dhoni has seen CSK home in a chase. Maybe not quite in the style that we would have hoped or liked to see MS Dhoni CSK home in a chase, but it doesn't matter. We'll forget about Anshul Kamboj and his 4 off 1. It was all about MS Dhoni taking it deep and making sure it didn't all fall in a heap. Because, 2-wicket win, a little bit squeaky. Maybe his wicket was the most important thing, given they were ahead of the game. So he's the king. He's still the king.
Yeah, like it did what he had to do. I was very impressed with Devil Brevis. I mean, I was very, very impressed with what he did. I know that Vaibhav Arora will rightly be criticised for the horror over that he bowled. I think it was like 3 full tosses and 3 half volleys or something like that. But it can't be easy to come into a tournament halfway through, join a team that's
been a disaster. Yeah,
yeah. He's
probably with no idea
guy.
where he was going to bat either. Looking at what they've
exactly,
been doing.
Yeah. He probably didn't even know if he'd play. He had no idea whether he'd even be in the 11. And he's come in. He's played pretty well for them in a few innings. This was obviously the most impressive. I think as well. Like obviously he was overlooked at the mega auction, which would have been disappointing to him after he had a whole tour of duty with Mumbai Indians last time. I think we're finally. I don't really get the baby de Villiers stuff. I don't think he looks anything like de Villiers personally, but I think we are finally starting to see some realizing of the potential that Mumbai obviously invested in last time. I think over coming seasons, he might actually be the most important thing that happens for CSK this year. Like that could be a massive pickup. What do you reckon about that theory?
Yeah, I think it's not a bad shout. I mean, he's young. He'll be, reasonably cheap, and he's shown that he can provide the impact and like the power that CSK need in their middle order, which has been exactly what they've been missing. Well, on top of the opening partnership and stability that they've basically based their entire franchise on for the last 10 years, not being there. They've also not had Shivam Dubé hitting sixes, which is the other bit of why they've been successful in recent years. So another option in the arsenal, definitely good. He's now their 6th top run scorer, having played 4 games. So that tells you all you need to know about how well it's going for CSK. Yeah, no, it's definitely a useful pickup. It'll be interesting to see what they do actually with whether they panic and throw the baby out with the bathwater at come mini auction, because we've just had a mega auction. There might not be that much on the table, but it already looks like some restructuring might be needed. So I don't think they're a side to panic, CSK, but maybe this year they should, because there's a few people in there who you're just like, don't know what you're doing.
I actually think, and this might be crazy. I mean, like, there's KKR are out. We should mention that as well. That's the thing that happened as a result of this game. But we're talking about CSK, so let's carry on. I actually think that it's not such a big salvage job for CSK, and that might sound ridiculous for a team that have been like sort of carnage this year. I think you get Gaikwad back in. That solves the big problem at the top of the order.
Yeah.
they need to
Despite
find
the
another
fact he wasn't
batter.
opening for them, which that's the other thing.
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah,
a bit of
well, that
injuries
was
and
crazy.
stupid decision making with the assets they've got.
They need to find, I think, another batter. But I think they've got some flexibility here. That could potentially be an overseas player. There'll probably be one or two of them floating around. I know a batter for the top four here.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on Conway. I'm not absolutely sold on Ravindra. I think that they probably need. I think they probably can upgrade him. So that they could do that. The bigger issue is that they have, by some way, I think, the worst power play bowling in the tournament. Like Khalil he's not absolute pony.
He
But
did really
he's
well to start with. He's fallen off since.
Yeah, he's nowhere near good enough to lead an attack by himself in the power play, and that's kind of what they're asking him to do. I think he's a good number 2 power play bowler. A couple of overs in there, might have an impact in a few games a season, but he's not. And I've looked at the numbers in this regard. He's like a kind of bottom 25% power play bowler, maybe bottom 3rd power play bowler, which is fine. You can have a guy like that in your team. They just can't be your main guy. Ashwin can bowl in the power play, but never takes wickets, averages 65 or something like that over the last couple of years. So he needs to, you really need to upgrade the potency there. And how they do that, I think, will be interesting. I mean, obviously they could buy somebody, but maybe they use Patarana. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Apart from Lucknow, it's probably the worst in the competition, isn't it? Maybe even as bad as Lucknow.
Who have Lucknow got? Mayank Yadav at the moment. He's
Avash
not
Khan.
firing.
Also, Avash Khan's
Yeah,
all right. Probably similar level.
I would rather have Avash, I think, over Khalil. But yeah, look, there's that. Should we move on to the other game that had cricket? So there was a rain off earlier in the week. Delhi v Sunrisers, which means that's a point for Delhi, which isn't.
It's a big point for Delhi because they were in trouble in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Delhi actually are level on points with Mumbai after today's cancellation as well. So Delhi aren't out of it, despite probably playing not great cricket in the last few days.
I'd say two pretty handy cancellations for the Delhi Capitals, isn't it? Was it 130 odd they scored in the first inning against Sunrisers, and Punjab were going pretty well when things were cancelled today. So yeah, I'd take those 2 points from where they were.
Well, I mean, if the season continues, I mean, there's that.
Yes,
that can be out, isn't it?
We may as well assume it does, otherwise that's not.
The rest of this. I guess. So that's Delhi. The other game was Mumbai Indians v Gujarat Titans. Now this was a kind of. I don't know. Did you catch much of this, Max? I know you weren't watching everything.
I've not. No, I did not see much of this.
Right, so this was a sort of bonkers game. There was weather about, like the pitch wasn't that easy. Mumbai, they get 155 batting first. That's mainly thanks to one partnership between Jax and Yadav, Sky, who both get sort of 30 plus. Will Jax gets, I think, his first 50 of the season, back pretty well. And then Corbin Bosch gets some runs near the end to get them up to 155 off their 20 overs. Now, that doesn't seem like it'd be enough. But actually, on this pitch, which was really hard to score on, I think, it turned out to be pretty competitive.
Very unwankady.
It was, yeah. And I wondered a little bit whether they'd
a tactic
done, whether there was a tactical pitch put out here that made batting difficult with the hope that they would get the top order of the Titans out early. And they did get Siddharthan. And then Gill and Butler, I mean, like, you can only really describe it as sort of digging in. In T20 terms, I mean, they both score nearly a run a ball, Butler a little bit quicker. They keep them in touch. They're eventually out, and we get to test the theory, Max. Like, what can the rest of this team do? It turns out Shafane Rutherford can do a little bit. He gets 28 off 15 balls. That was very useful. And the rest of the lineup, I think I'd describe it as doing enough. The kind of controversial part of this game is that there's a rain. It starts to rain with 2 overs to go, and Mumbai are ahead on DLS at this point. It rains enough that they reduce the length of the game, but not enough to cancel it. So they knock 1 over off and a few runs, and it becomes, can they get 15 off the last over? It isn't a great over that Deepak Chahar bowls. and sort of Mumbai had used a lot of their good bowling earlier to keep themselves.
Also,
in the game,
not your
good.
go-to for a final over, is he?
Sure, he concedes 11 off the first 3 balls, and that's basically that. Also bowls a no ball. I mean, it's sort of pretty bad. Off the last ball of the game, though, Mumbai had a chance to take it to a super over. Arshad Khan, who comes in, I'm not really sure what's going with Kurt Sayer. They needed 1 to win, and he gets caught a deep square leg. And you are like, mate, come on, like,
gotta win it in style. Get those net run rate points.
Think it through. Arshad Khan comes in. He literally just plays tap and run. It's like the 1999 World Cup final. It goes to Hardik Pandya. No one from Mumbai really covers the stumps. On comms, they were having a go at the bowler. I don't think it was his fault. I think it's pretty difficult in your follow through to bowl, turn around, bowl, arrest all your momentum, get back to the stumps in like the 1.5 seconds it's going to take Arshad to run the 16 or 17 yards and dive. I think that's unrealistic. I think actually it's Surya Kumar Yadav that's a bit slow to the stumps. Having said all that, if Hardik Pandya didn't just launch it as hard as possible and maybe threw it to the sky, I still think they'd have been able to get the run out. They don't. It doesn't go to a super over. Gujarat Titans win. Leaves Mumbai in a slightly dicey situation. They're probably still favourites to go through because their net run rate is very good. But probably a good result for the IPL overall, I would say.
And even if it isn't, there's top 2 implications on the line, aren't there? So that will make a big difference to those. But yeah, it's a massive one for Delhi. I don't think the table on ESPN has updated yet. It's still got Punjabs and Delhi playing, despite the fact that the game would have been over by now anyway. So what that leaves Delhi level on points with Mumbai with the same number of games played, thanks to those 2 rain-offs. So it is 5-4, isn't it, at this point, basically?
Yeah, that is. Well, yeah, exactly. That's going to be what it is.
So
Delhi
that net run rate probably does help quite a lot for Mumbai. And again, as we'd sort of mentioned before, the final few games, the last game is Delhi Mumbai, so could actually be a big one.
Well, we know for sure that both teams will theoretically be able to qualify if they win that match.
Yeah.
It will be difficult if Mumbai win their next game and Delhi lose their next game, because Delhi will need a huge net run rate swing, probably an unrealistic net run rate swing, but there'll still be something on the line there. So, we
there's a reason to keep going until the 15th of May.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That is the IPL. It's a bit of a weird time to be doing a show, to be honest, but that's what we know about it. That's the cricket that happened. We're going to take a break. Then we've got a little bit of test match cricket, where I think we're on, English ground. We could talk about Zach Crawley and stuff like that. Yes, ground. And maybe a little bit of Rohit Sharma as well, because he has retired. It was sort of like you can't fire me, I quit type retirement.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get to that.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast. We've got a little bit of test match cricket to talk about, which is nice. Max, we've got 2 options here. We can do England squad v Zimbabwe. We can do Rohit Sharma. We can do James Rue being called up. That's sort of an addendum to the Zimbabwe squad from an England point of view, but it is a thing. What would you like? I
was thinking we could focus on the Zimbabwe squad myself, but
do you have the Zimbabwe squad up?
I do.
Okay,
Sikandar Raza's in it. That's the main news for anyone who's heard of anyone for Zimbabwe, is that Sikandar Raza is back in after he missed out on the last time they had a test series for franchise commitments, but he's in there. So that's good. Good for Sikandar Raza. I don't know what his test pedigree is like, but we know he's decent at cricket, so that's good. But no, let's talk England squad, shall we?
Okay.
Because that's where the Rue news is, and where the interesting stuff is, I suppose.
Well, I'll run through it then. We've got Ben Stokes as captain. That's going to shock people. Atkinson, Shoaib Bashir, Harry Brooks, Sam Cook, Zach Crawley, Ben Duckett, Ollie Pope, Matt Potts, James Rue, Joe Root, Jamie Smith, and Josh Tongue or Tong. I've never really got to the bottom of that. I think it's Tongue.
I thought they always said
Jordan
Tom,
Cox.
but who cares?
Okay, yeah, Jordan Cox was in, and now he is out. An unfortunate injury for him. A couple of injuries that have kept him out of making a test debut. Now, Matt, what are we going to learn from the England squad for the Zimbabwe game?
Not a lot. I mean, we'll know. We'll get to know whether they're good enough to beat Zimbabwe. I'd like to think the answer is yes. It's basically the same team that you'd expect, isn't it, with a different bowling attack? So, it's nice at least that we should get to see Sam Cook in England colours, because he's a guy that people have been touting for England for a long, long time with his pedigree in the first class cricket. And obviously England are very heavily focused on trying to find people who can bowl 90 miles an hour. And as a result, he's probably missed out a bit despite averaging under 20 in first class cricket. So he's a guy who deserves to have a go, deserves a chance, and I think he's probably the most exciting thing to pick out from the squad and what to watch for this game. Obviously, English conditions in May, as someone who averages under 20 in the county championship against the Zimbabwe batting lineup, I don't know, he's sort of it's not in a no-win situation in a way, isn't it? If he comes away and takes 10 wickets for the match, everyone will be like, well, it was Zimbabwe and you are supposed to be quite good, so I would expect you to do that. And if he comes away and takes, 2 for 90 over the 2 innings, then everyone's like, oh, well, see, told you, we should have picked someone else. So it's kind of almost a tough crowd for Sam Cook, I think, but I'm excited to see him get his chance.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think England's bowling in general is a big question mark. It's like they can't really put it's like they are unable to have both parts of a cricket team functioning at the same time. For years, they've
always been like that, hasn't it?
And now they're sort of all right at batting, but the bowling is like, well, I mean, like there's lots of question marks there. I don't think there's probably nobody in the country who's really clear on what England's best 4 bowlers are, let alone the England team itself. Like we're pretty sure Atkinson is one of them. I think we're quite sure of that. Potts might be one of them. Then we've got Sam Cook making a debut, which is probably overdue. Yeah. But like you say, the kind of selection policy of the England cricket team has been to generally just pick fast guys. So if he doesn't do something spectacular, you can actually imagine him being. You can imagine a scenario where he's just.
I'm afraid you didn't take all 20 wickets. You are the weakest. Goodbye.
And then they've picked probably not even one of England's best 5 spinners as their only spinner in Shoaib Bashir. And this isn't like a vendetta against Shoaib Bashir. This is like a reality of
cold hard
guy.
Facts.
He's been dropped by Glamorgan. It's not. He's taken about 3 championship wickets this year, and I know they're going to be on different pitches. And
Lawrence has taken more wickets than that bowling off spin.
Yeah, blah 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 blah. But I think it is strange. There are also rumours that Liam Dawson is going to be recalled for the white ball cricket team. So that frankly makes absolutely no sense. That you would have. And I'm not saying Liam Dawson is some sort of super spinner. What I'm saying basically is that at least Liam Dawson and at least Jack Leach are better prospects as a spin bowler for England.
Everything seems to just be happening 3 years late, doesn't it? Sam Cook, Liam Dawson, and then on the other hand, Shoaib Bashir is just there.
Cool. So we got that. Do you want to talk about James Rue? Who is James Rue for people who don't know?
Yeah, we can talk about James Rue. So James Rue 2 years ago he had a real breakout season playing for Somerset as a wicketkeeper batter. Scored a bunch of hundreds and looked mint. Less fantastic last year, but then back looking as mint again this year, averaging 51 in the championship so far this season. And another guy who has been touted as an up and coming star to come into this England lineup. The problem that he's got is that England have got quite a few people who are vying for a place in the middle order who've done a lot of things at county level, scoring a bunch of runs. He's behind Jamie Smith in that pecking order as a wicketkeeper as well. Jordan Cox got the nod of ahead of him last year to come in. So, it gives you a bit of a sense of where that depth chart is for England, I suppose. But yeah, he's a very, very exciting young man with the bat for sure. And I don't know if we will see him play, but he's 21 and bright future ahead of him because he'll get a go for sure at some point.
I think that might not be the sexiest selection that has happened in the Bazball era, and I think there will have been serious debates.
I think that's why Jordan Cox got in ahead of him last year.
Yeah, and I think there would have been serious debates about Tom Banton even being selected.
Yeah, we did. We sort of joked about that, didn't we? After his 300.
Yeah. So we, it's not really a surprise that they selected him. It's a no-brainer for any other cricket nation to pick a guy who has 11 first-class centuries, averages 45. He's only 21. That's really, really obvious that you do that. Will they actually pick him? I don't know. Maybe he'll just be running some drinks. I think
youngest Englishman to score 10 first-class centuries since Dennis Compton.
He wasn't bad. He was pretty good. And he played up front for Arsenal, I think. So, not saying Mikel Arteta after yesterday.
Well, I tell you what, do need a striker, don't they?
They do need a striker. So that's England done. That test happens actually fairly soon now. I'm looking forward to a little bit of test cricket.
Couple of weeks,
2 weeks Zimbabwe they've got. Nice. The other news, which is pertinent for later in the summer from an England Test fan point of view, is that Rohit Sharma has hung up the spike. Well, not fully hung up the spikes. Hung up his test spikes, the comfy spikes.
What do they say? Do they have? Is there a saying?
I think you hang up the whites.
Hang up the whites. Put the bat in the back of the car, and then don't get it out of the boot ever again.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, this is what he said in his words. Hello, everyone. I would just like to share that I'm retiring from Test cricket. It's been an absolute honour to represent my country in whites. So he's gone for the whites angle.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for all the love and support over the years. I will continue to represent India in the ODI format. So he's obviously signalled intention there to continue playing for India for a little bit. He's already retired from T20, so that'll be the only format he does continue in. Maybe trying to squeeze one last World Cup in. Not sure. It seems, I think, that the powers that be had made some sort of a decision to at least move on from him as captain. There are rumours that Shubman Gill is likely to be the person who is given the armband. Bumrah has, of course, captained India. I was going to say Australia. Captained India a couple of times recently, but he's coming back from an injury. I don't know 100% whether they... I don't know whether it would be a good idea for Bumrah to be the captain, considering that probably the best way to manage Bumrah is to not play him in every single test match. But other opinions are available on that. For Rohit Sharma, it means he retires with a test average of just over 40. It was tailing off a little bit, but that's not a bad effort, which puts him among the best, I think, Indian openers. I'm not sure, obviously.
Well, there's Sunil Gavaskar, and then there's everyone else.
Yes, that he's in the
best
group of players. He's in the group of players that can be legitimately called best of the rest, I think. That is Rohit. What do you think that means for India? What do you think that means for Rohit? What's his legacy? All of those questions, Max.
Yeah, I think he leaves leaves behind a pretty good body of work, doesn't he? But I think good on him for the old jump before you push thing. I feel like Jimmy Anderson probably would have liked to do that. So he saw his time was coming and he got in there first. So always a fan of people being able to do that. But yeah, he's been a quality player for India over the last, well, it's been a while, isn't it? Decade or so. But probably the right time, I think, to move on. You know, he's still got an innings in him that I think that one of the things that I always think about with Rohit is the innings he puts together where no one else can seem to bat, and he puts on a runnable 50 as if it's just a completely different surface, and wins matches. There was I remember the game at Lords a few years ago when he was opening with KL Rahul, and one of the best exhibitions of leaving the ball and playing inside the line at Lords I've ever seen, and it got India off to a match-winning start, and all the hell that broke loose afterwards was secondary to what Rohit Sharma did. So it's a skill set that I think India will probably find tough to replace at the top of that order. But volume of runs in the long term, probably they'll be fine with the amount of talent in the pipeline. But he does have something about him that I think a lot of other Indian openers would, well, aspire to have or struggle to replicate in terms of getting India out of those tricky situations. So we'll see. We'll see what the future is for that top order. I assume Jaiswal, and what do we think? Jaiswal and KL Rahul, or will it be Gill back up to open? What do you think that looks like?
If I were India, I would go with KL Rahul and Jaiswal with Gill at 3. I think KL Rahul had a really good series opening the batting in England. He's clearly, and I think he's done okay in South Africa as well. I think he's like there's some evidence he's pretty good against the ball seaming around. He's got the technique for that. So I would go with KL. Jaiswal, is obviously a prodigy, but is less proven in those conditions. So I think it would be good if India were going into the series with one guy who has
done it before,
has a history of doing it before, right? Gill probably also in the Jaiswal camp. A few question marks there, like doesn't like the ball moving back into him. That England will target that, and the ball will move. So I think you want basically one steady hand in your top 3. I'm not saying that Gill and Jaiswal are not going to get any runs. They probably will. They're both pretty good, but they're not proven. Then I kind of wonder, like there are more questions further down the order, aren't there, from an India point of view? Kohli at 4. That does the world still love that? Does anyone still love that? Kohli loves it.
Time's going to be called on that sooner rather than later, isn't it?
It could be this series. Who knows? But again, like he has a history of doing well in England. I think it's fair from an India point of view to wheel him out one more time and see if he can put away the cover drive for 10 minutes. And then where are Rishabh Pant and Jadeja and Nitish Kumar Reddy in terms of fitness and technique at the moment? Like Jadeja had a spell where he was great pretty much all around the world with the bat. Has he dropped off from there a little bit? Maybe there's a little bit of evidence of that. Rishabh Pant can't buy a run in the IPL. I don't think you can play Nitish Kumar Reddy unless he can bowl. He hasn't been bowling at all in the IPL. Is that to keep him safe for the Test series? Could be. It wouldn't be the dumbest thing ever. Like
his bowling's possibly not good enough to be in the side for his bowling anyway. So I would question that.
Yeah.
Just the whole selection.
I think it makes India better moving on from Rohit. I still think there are a lot of question marks in this team.
Yeah.
And they're not question marks I don't expect them to be unable to solve. Like, I think if you're an England fan and you're like 5-0, bring it on, you're wrong. Like, this is going to be a good series. England are flawed as well.
Yeah, right. It's sides in transition. Probably England are transitioning with the ball more than the bat, and India are the other way around, I suppose. So interesting for both sides.
Cool. Max, shall we wrap up there?
Let's do that.
There is one final update that has been shared on the IPL. which is no decision has been taken on the IPL. We are looking at the situation, which is fluid. We are in constant touch with the government. If any decision is taken, that will be communicated. That's apparently from the IPL chairman, which probably means, to wrap up this show, that there is really no news on what's going on in the IPL. So we'll call it there. We'll be back on Monday. Have a safe weekend, everyone.
Cheerio.